You don't even realize it yet, but the greatest power of your life is hiding in the moments you spend alone. What if the moments you spend alone are not empty spaces in your life, but the very forge where your greatness is shaped? Most people fear being alone, but the truth is, solitude is where your real strength awakens. It's the quiet space where your mind becomes sharper, your purpose becomes clearer, and your inner voice becomes impossible to ignore. In those silent moments, the greatest transformations happen. And if you've ever wondered why the most brilliant minds in history treated solitude like their secret weapon, then this video is something you need to hear. Solitude has always whispered truths that the noise of the world tries to drown. And yet, in a time when every second is filled with notifications, opinions, expectations, and the constant hum of other people's voices, the idea of being alone has become something we run from. But here is the quiet secret that the greatest minds in history knew. Alone is where you meet yourself. Alone is where you rediscover the raw material of your spirit. Alone is where you hear the questions that actually matter. And alone is where you sharpen the kind of strength that cannot be taken from you. Think about the lives of those who shaped our world. The inventors, the philosophers, the artists, the scientists, the leaders who dared to think beyond the boundaries of their time. Each of them, at some crucial point, stepped away from the noise, withdrew from the crowd, and faced the vast inner wilderness of their own thoughts. Because solitude is not the absence of people, it is the presence of clarity. It is the space where creativity breathes, where ideas stretch, where courage grows muscles. It is the hidden chamber where the self becomes solid. When Leonardo da Vinci disappeared into his notebooks for hours, sketching ideas no one had seen before, he was not escaping the world, he was shaping it. When Nikola Tesla wandered the streets of New York in silence, letting his mind build entire machines before a single piece of metal was ever touched, he wasn't avoiding life, he was preparing to reinvent it. When Virginia Woolf insisted on having a room of her own, she understood that a mind cannot bloom without space, without the quiet in which imagination lights its own fire. Throughout history, solitude has been the crucible of brilliance. But today, when loneliness is feared like a shadow, we forget that being alone is not being abandoned. It is not being unloved. It is not being broken. Being alone is a skill, one that empowers you, protects you, and transforms you. But the real question is this: why do so many people avoid being alone? Maybe because solitude demands truth, and truth is not always comfortable. In solitude, you cannot distract yourself with noise. You cannot hide behind entertainment or busyness. You cannot drown your doubts with chatter or your insecurities with validation. When you are alone, the mirror comes out, and in that reflection, you see the parts of yourself that need growth, healing, discipline, direction. Yet that mirror is not the enemy. It is your greatest ally. Because only the person who can sit alone with their thoughts can sit confidently in the world. Only the person who can walk alone can walk into any room with unshakable presence. Solitude teaches you to listen, not to others, but to the quiet voice inside that knows who you truly are. You learn what drains you, what excites you, what matters, what doesn't. When you remove the world's noise, your inner compass finally begins to point somewhere, and that somewhere is your purpose. Solitude is the soil where self-knowledge grows roots. Without it, you live your life according to other people's expectations, values, and dreams. With it, you begin to build a life aligned with your own. And somewhere buried inside you is a version of yourself that is waiting to be discovered. Not in the crowds, not in the chaos, not in the constant motion, but in the quiet spaces you allow yourself to enter. The great minds of history did not fear solitude. They embraced it. They sought it out. They treated it like the sacred workshop where the raw ideas of their soul could be shaped into something real. And that same workshop is available to you if you choose to step into it. Because when you master the art of being alone, you stop being afraid of silence. You stop being afraid of stillness. You stop being afraid of yourself. And once you stop being afraid of yourself, you become unstoppable. Being alone is not simply sitting in an empty room. It is an intentional journey inward. It is choosing to explore the landscape of your mind with courage, curiosity, and honesty. Look at history's thinkers, Marcus Aurelius, spending hours in reflection, filling his journals with lessons that would guide empires. Albert Einstein, getting lost in daydreams that would rewrite the laws of physics. Marie Curie, isolating herself in her laboratory for days at a time, driven by a focus so intense it reshaped science forever. These people did not achieve greatness because they were superhuman. They achieved greatness because they were willing to step away from the world long enough to see it more clearly. Solitude sharpened their minds, clarified their direction, distilled their values. But more importantly, solitude gave them the courage to think differently. Because when you're alone, you're free from the gravitational pull of other people's opinions. You're free from the invisible pressure to fit in. You're free from the fear of judgment that keeps so many dreams locked inside. The greatest discoveries, inventions, and masterpieces came from people who dared to trust their intuition. People who let their minds wander into places others were afraid to explore. Solitude is not a cage. It is an open field, a place where ideas are allowed to run wild before the world tries to tame them. But solitude is not just about creativity. It is about emotional strength. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop settling for relationships that drain you. You stop chasing approval. You stop clinging to people out of fear of being alone. You begin to choose who enters your life with intention, not desperation. And suddenly, your relationships become healthier, deeper, more authentic, because you are no longer trying to fill a void. You are sharing your overflow. Solitude also teaches resilience. In the quiet, you learn to carry yourself, to self-soothe, to motivate yourself, to discipline yourself. You begin to realize that your happiness does not depend on circumstances or other people. It grows from within. When you master solitude, the world can shake, but your roots remain firm. Challenges don't break you, they refine you, because you've built strength in the quiet, when no one was watching. And perhaps the most powerful lesson solitude teaches is this: you are whole, even when you stand alone. You are not half a person searching for another half. You are not incomplete without a crowd. You are not missing anything. You are complete, and your solitude is the proof. The great minds throughout history understood this. They embraced being alone not because they disliked people, but because they cherished their inner world. They knew that a life with no solitude becomes a life with no clarity. A mind with no solitude becomes a mind with no depth. And a soul with no solitude becomes a soul disconnected from itself. But solitude also invites discomfort, and that discomfort is where growth happens. When you sit with silence long enough, unresolved emotions rise to the surface. Old wounds ask to be healed. Questions demand answers. You begin to confront the parts of your life that you've ignored. But this confrontation is not punishment. It is the beginning of transformation. The person who can walk through the discomfort of solitude can walk through anything. Because solitude gives you what the world cannot, an unshakable relationship with yourself. There comes a moment in every person's life when they must choose, follow the noise or follow their inner voice. The world will always try to pull you into its rhythm, fast, loud, chaotic. But the great minds knew that everything extraordinary begins in quiet, in the still pause before an idea is born, in the slow breath taken before a decision is made, in the silent courage of choosing your path, not the one others expect you to walk. The power of being alone lies in reclaiming your attention, your energy, your identity. It lies in building a sanctuary within yourself that the world cannot invade. And once you embrace solitude, you realize that you are never truly alone, because your inner world is rich, vibrant, alive. The ideas you discover, the clarity you gain, the strength you cultivate, these become your companions. They guide you, inspire you, protect you. And as you grow, you bring that strength back into the world. You become a person who does not simply exist, but someone who leads, contributes, creates, and uplifts. So let this be your reminder. Your greatest breakthroughs, your deepest healing, your boldest ideas, your strongest version of yourself, all of it begins in the quiet you choose to embrace. Do not fear being alone. Fear never meeting yourself. Fear never hearing your inner voice. Fear living a life shaped by noise instead of truth. Make solitude your teacher, your sanctuary, your strength, and watch how your world transforms. In the quiet, you don't lose yourself. You finally find who you were meant to be. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and, of course, subscribe for more awesome content.